Welcome to the Prosperity Perspective by DML, a conversation about how successful business owners invest their hard-earned money to preserve their wealth and what they might have done differently in hindsight. Well, thanks for joining me today, guys. Today we're joined by Dr. Stevie Dawn Carter. She's got an amazing story and background from running 4 different businesses, dabbling, multiple countries, kind of figuring life out, proving things to others, to herself. And I think you'll really enjoy the conversation. So with that, Stevie, if you want to introduce yourself to the audience and maybe share a little bit about what your current company does and where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Liam, for having me. It's so great to be able to share all of this and to just talk about money and business and how we really prosper, I think is a really important conversation that we need to be having. So I'm just blessed to be here today. So awesome. Me right now, I'm a professional speaker and coach. I'm based out of Mansfield, Texas with my husband and our family. I've got my Hey Y'all t-shirt on today, just to prove that I am from Texas today. For me, it's really about helping people achieve unstoppable success. Because in my work, what I find is a lot of people have unrealized profits in their business. They have unlived aspirations in their life and basically are just underwhelmed with their results. I know that's where I was at in my life. Like, this is not what life was meant to be. And so I really had to dig deep and go on a journey of what did I want out of my life? What did I want out of my business? How did I become the person that I needed to be to do all of that? And along that journey, I learned a lot of things. And now I get to share that with people, help them become unstoppable in their lives. And that's been just a really great experience to have and to see people grow. So that's what I'm up to these days.
That's very cool. Finding ways to share and give back, which is a big thing for me. And you've made it your primary mode of income, which is super cool. So, kudos to you on that piece. Jumping right in, here on the Prosperity Perspective, we like to kind of have a dialogue and discussion around, how you invest and how you choose to invest personally and with the business, right? As you've gone through 4 companies, you've had a range of experiences. You're now in a place where, you've had the ability to experience, some great profitability, make some choices, and determine, what you want to do. You don't have to worry about putting food on the table, taking care of the employees, right? You've got the benefit of choice, right? And so now that you have that choice and you're earning, that profitability, what's your framework in terms of how you think about where you put that profitability, either for your family or your business as you move forward?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. I think for me, I first and foremost always think about what does the business need to run without me? Because at the end of the day, I am only one person. And I've had some situations over the last 7 years in this business where me getting sick or me being out for a while really tanked the profit, right? And then you start going, man, how do we not have that happen? So anytime we're kind of looking at our profitability and where we want to invest, I always first look at what does the business need to make sure that it survives without me. I think that's important. And while I am a speaker and a coach, so that is 100% on me, there's a lot of the other business stuff that doesn't need to be me. Outsourcing my social media, outsourcing my scheduling and my podcasting and all the other things so that I can really just focus on the things that only need to be me. And so that's one way that we look at investment. The other way we look at investment is any investment I need in myself to keep me motivated. Because as the CEO, I do believe it is my job to motivate whoever works for me, which means I need to stay motivated. So we always look at, do I need a new coach? Am I investing in any kind of masterminds or those kinds of programs? So when we look at our investment strategy, that's our business investment strategy. What needs to replace me? What do I need to outsource? And then is there anything on my list of things that I want? So we do that first and foremost. Then we take things and we start looking at for our personal family goals. we look at where do we need to invest. So we do invest some in the stock market, although that is not our favorite, just because it's a lot of risk and a lot of analysis and all of these things. And my husband's just kind of like, eh. So we do invest some there, but we also do a lot of our investing through real estate. We've run some retail properties. We've had some investment properties over the years. We had to make some scary decisions last year, as I know many people did. And so we actually pulled out some money from investments and held on to it just because it was that time of year and that kind of issue. And we were like, you know what, let's just save it. So we're looking to reinvest in more properties in the next couple of years. That's really our long-term strategy. We have an IRA, we have that kind of stuff, but we want to invest in real estate. That's what my husband really loves. I don't know that I really love it, but he really loves it. So we let him deal with that because he is really the money guy. That is not my space. So he does that. And then, anything above and beyond that, we do a lot of giving. I have a lot of charities that I support. And then we just started our own nonprofit theater company. And so we invested in it so that it can run itself for a couple of years and start getting on its feet. So I think for me, it's always investing in what takes the business to the next level, investing personally in our future to make sure that when years like last year happened, we always have that nest egg. We don't have to worry. That's where I want to be. I want to pay all my people. I don't want to worry. And then we kind of look at where do we give back to our community or reinvest in that way. We've done that in a lot of different ways over the years, but that's definitely a component of our framework. So I think those are our three main areas.
Excellent. So on the business side, when you're talking about the business running without you, you talked a lot about kind of outsourcing and taking those, those areas that aren't necessarily need your direct input and finding support functions for that. I think that's one component, right? Have you thought about it the same way in terms of an exit or a sale down the line in terms of running without you, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did when we had our corporate training company, which was the company we started 7 years ago, and it just kind of morphed into where we are now. But when we had that, one of our discussions and our exit plan was to eventually sell the curriculum to one of our senior trainers. So we had a staff of 10. We wanted to be able to sell the curriculum because the curriculum is all stuff I developed during my time in my PhD program. So it's my intellectual property. But I wanted to be able to sell that off, let them run with it, and me be able to just walk away. And we were on that track. We were definitely on that path, and just decided that I wanted to do some different things and didn't really I offered it to my trainers at the time, but didn't really have anybody who wanted to take that on or was willing to kind of be in that investment place. So kind of put that to the side, but our exit strategy still is that I have a lot of curriculum. And at some point I would love to be able to sell that knowledge to somebody else and let them run with it, whether that's a company, whether that's an individual, that does not matter. But that is definitely part of our exit plan long-term. And then also to just be in a space where, the real exit is when I want to stop, I can, because we have the money, and that's the other part of that. Right now, my business does take a lot of me. I speak for a living. So I am on camera and on stage every single day using my voice. At a certain point, maybe in my 80s or 90s, I don't know, I may want a break. I may want to take a step back. And I would love to be in a position where I don't have to worry about selling it at that point, but I'm able just to say, you know what, we have so much money, we're good. We're good. We can continue to live our lives, and I can just say no to that contract. And, over the last 7 years, we've gotten ourselves to a place where I can say that sometimes now. I'm not so driven by oh my God, but I need that $5,000. You know what? I don't actually. I don't want to do that one. So I'll just say no to it. That's a really cool place to get to too. So.
That's neat. So you mentioned you are at that place sometimes.
Yes.
So it doesn't sound like you're there for everything yet. So there seems like there's still a little bit of that tension, right? And so I
think there's still an overcome of that money mindset, right? Like if I look at my books and if I were to share them with people, they'd be like, don't take whatever you don't want, you're fine. And I know that, but there's still a piece of me that still feels that scarcity, right? Sometimes and goes, oh, but what if it all falls apart? Maybe I should just take this this 5K and just bank it. Like, it's easy money, do it anyway. I'm working past that, but it still pops its head. I think I've done a lot of work on my mindset to get past those blocks, but they still rear their ugly heads every so often. And I take something, which I immediately regret, right? Because you take it and then you start working with the client and you're like, this is why I should have said no. This is horrible. Why am I doing this? So the more of that I have, also, I start really getting to the point where I'm like, you know what, that's going to be a no, hard pass. I'm just going to move on. I'm going to save myself that pain. But that is a mindset thing, right? It's not that the business is in any way different today than it was last week, but sometimes my mindset is, and that's where I have to do my work, right?
Yeah, that was going to lead into my next. Is it a fixed number or is it an ever-changing number, right? And the ever-changing is usually outside influence, right? Whether it's
Right.
the need for more or the scarcity mindset or the I'm not enough for, X, Y, Z, that usually filters. And it's hard, right? Like half the time you don't know you're caught in it until
you're
either too
doing it.
late or you have a mentor or a coach who sits you down and gives you some perspective, right? And so was curious kind of how you break those apart.
Yeah. So for me, it really is it's not a fixed number. I don't think like, well, when I hit this number, I never have to worry again. No, I'll just want a bigger number. That's who I am. I'm an overachiever. I'm a goal getter. That's what I do. So I think for me, one of the biggest lessons I tried to learn, and it was during last year, funny enough, but why this was the year I decided to learn the lesson, I will not know, but the universe does things in a certain way. And the lesson I am trying to learn now is, you know what, being a millionaire is great. Knowing that you can make $1 million is awesome. Does it actually take $1 million to make you happy? I don't know. I don't think it does for me. I think I am really, really happy at a lot less. So there's also been this move for me to be more accepting of the fact that I don't have to push just to hit that million to say that I've done it, And as we spoke earlier, I definitely have a tendency to try and prove things. So I think there was a little bit of this in the last 5 years of just, I need to prove I can do it. I need to prove I can do it. I feel like I'm a little bit past that now. And I'm like, I know I can do it. I just don't want to have to work that hard. So I just won't, and I'll step back. So I think that's part of it too. Getting caught in that cycle of thinking, I'm not enough. I haven't hit it yet, or I need to hit it this year because, hey, we didn't hit it last year. Yeah. And that's okay. We're still good, And so trying to accept that too has been something I've had to work on for sure.
Makes sense. I want to throw something out and let you react to it because there's some things that have resonated with me that I think will resonate with you as well. I'm curious on your perspective, but for me, happiness is not, there's a certain level, and I passed it a long time ago, where to be happy, I'm happy. However, there's certain things in my internal drive that don't allow me to be static. And so while I have happiness, so to speak, it's finding the blend of what drives me, whether it's proving to myself or proving to others, or setting milestones for me to achieve, versus quote unquote happiness and being satisfied, right? I don't think I'll ever be satisfied in that regard. And so I think it's about the harmony that you can find with the two.
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like the number I need to make me happy, I've had for years. So there's no need to worry about that anymore. It's not that, it's but I still would like to do this, right? Like it's kind of like, I think as an entrepreneur, when you start hitting your first, like you hit your 5K month, then you hit your 10K month. Well, then there's a piece of you that's like, okay, let me make that 100K month. Just because I feel like I should be able to figure that out, right? It's like a problem to solve. And so I do think that there's that balance, right? Of yes, I have enough money to be happy, so I'm good. I don't need to worry. But what's going to keep me moving forward and bettering myself? Because I also don't want to be stagnant. It's such a great point, right? That harmony between the two.
So that leads into your other part, right? You talked about the business, and then you talked about the investment in yourself, which is also tied to the business, because particularly in your business, you need to be your happy best self to excel in your business, right? And so how do you recognize what that balance is and where you need, whether it's more mentorship, coaching, perspective, mindfulness, whatever that may be, so that you're, most useful?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always look at, is there something that is kind of just making me negative or bringing me down? That's always my first like internal check of what that is. So years and years and years ago, my first couple of years in business, I made $0. It was horrible. And so what was bringing me down? Sales, lack of money. So what did I do? I got a sales coach, right? And through that coaching, boom, made my first 6 figures and scaled up from there. Awesome. So then, right, go through my life, and then something comes up and it's like, hey, you need to be a better keynote. You're a really great corporate trainer, but when you get on those keynote stages in front of 1,400, 2,000 people, you're like, wah, wah. That was bothering me. I was starting to feel negative. So what did I do? I got a speaking coach, somebody who does those big keynotes and says, hey, help me out. Teach me how to be better in this area. And so then I go that way. So that's always how I do it. I do it based on what's in my life that's making me negative at the moment. And then how do I find somebody to help me with that? What I have found over the years is I've bought a lot of courses. I've watched a lot of webinars. I have bought into a lot of masterminds. I've done all the things. But that being said, the thing that always helps me personally is one-on-one coaching. So at this point in my business, all I do is look for one-on-one coaching, which is not cheap, and can take, can definitely be an investment from the business. But every time I do it, I scale up huge. With usually in the first 30 to 90 days, I make a huge leap. Whether that be in profit or just in feeling or in number of clients, whatever it is. I make huge jumps immediately once I hire a new coach. It just gives me that motivation to do the next thing. So that's how I kind of determine it, is what am I feeling negative about? And then let me find somebody who that's their strength and let me see what I can learn from them. But over the years, I've definitely learned that coaching is my number one go-to.
Is it ever proactive as opposed to reactive? Meaning you're talking about experiencing something negative is the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to experience something negative, or is there a way to get ahead of it?
I think you don't have to. I think that over time, you learn what works for you. I've learned that coaching is what works for me. So now I tend to be always on the lookout for a coach. And I have multiple coaches at one time. I used to only do one coach at a time. Now I'm like, they can all help me. But also my money, I have more money to invest, so I can afford more coaches. So that's also another point. Because in the beginning, I could barely afford the first one. I think it does become proactive in just me knowing I need coaching. So if I'm feeling just kind of at that stagnant place, let me go find a coach. And then the question becomes, what should I focus on? I do like coaches that have a focus. I don't do a lot of kind of all around general coaches. I like coaches that have a focus. They're a marketing coach or a sales coach or a speaking coach or business like strategy coach or an ads coach, like whatever it is. I like very specific things. So I think that's where the trigger is, right? Is the trigger is what's the specific thing I'm going to look for. But I am always on the lookout for a coach. And that is proactive, I feel, because I know I'm going to want it.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Flipping over to the personal side, you had talked about kind of this desire to have a safety net or a safety egg, so to speak. How do you determine what that number is, or how much you need to have in that before you're, buying real estate or putting more into the stock market? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so I don't think about it much at all, if I'm 100% honest. My husband thinks about it a lot and has spreadsheets and equations and numbers. He's my accountant. But I think really what it comes down to is for us, it's always been every year we push the needle, right? So the first year that I started kind of saving, and this was way before I had a business, but when I started actually personally learning how to have a savings account, the first thing I did is I learned to have a different zero balance, right? So don't actually spend your checking to zero, spend it to $1,000. $1,000 is your zero because you need $1,000 in case a rainy day happens, right? And then it was 2,000, and then it was 3,000. And then after I had 3 months of expenses, then it was just too much. That was overkill. And I needed to do something with that money. I think that's kind of where we've always kind of stuck is 3 months. If we've got 3 months of everything good and liquid, then we're able to say, okay, we can go out and play with some of this other money. As we've gotten more along in our years, how about we put it that way? As we've gotten closer to those bigger ages, that number that we want has increased. So now I think we're at a year. We have a year of expenses just in the bank. No worries. So literally during a year that should not be named like we previously had, it could be okay. It was okay that overnight I lost $75,000. It was okay because we had all the money we needed for the year. So it didn't matter. And that's kind of where we're at now, is especially after last year. I think we really feel like a year is good just to make sure. Not that we needed it, but it's there and it makes you feel good. So that's kind of been our level now, but we grew over time. We were always willing to invest. And I think that's the thing. Like if you say, well, until I have a year of expenses, I'm never investing, you may never grow. You got to be willing to invest even when you don't have everything. Like you got to be willing to invest because that's in your future, and that allows you to scale to those bigger numbers a lot faster. So, we had about 4 or 5 months in the bank when we did, hey, let's find our first rental property. And then as long as we had the 20% deposit, we were good, down payment. And so that's kind of how we've always rolled. We've always expanded it a little bit as our income expands. We expand how much we save, but we're always willing to take a risk and we're always willing to invest because we know that that pays off in the long run. So as soon as we had the money to set up an IRA, boom, there we were, right? Putting money in it all the time. As soon as we had the money to get rental properties, boom, there we were doing the rental properties. As soon as they were self-sufficient, we were saving money to go, okay, here's the next one. Like we were always on that next level, because we do know that at a certain point, when the business is me, if at any point I just decide I want out, we got to have enough money to keep us afloat. And we have a family of 5 that we support. So it's a lot.
It's a lot indeed. Taking into account the prosperity and looking back, your first business, you started it, in your teenage years, what would you do differently / tell, younger entrepreneurs who are at the front end of their journey in terms of how to approach it, right? Or do differently. You mentioned you've got to be able to invest, but at the same time, you've got to have that safety, right? So how do you balance that when you're earlier on?
I think in the beginning, I did everything at that zero balance, right? So I would make money, spend it, make money, spend it. Savings did not exist. Thinking about future months did not exist. Planning for any of that did not exist. In the end, is that what did my business in? No, that's not what did my business in. The fact that I didn't know what I was doing is what did my business in, right? So spending the money or saving the money, I don't think that would have made a difference in that moment. I think it was just I needed to learn what the heck I was doing with my life. However, I think now what I encourage people to do is I say, hey, number 1, side hustle it, man. Side hustle it. Make sure your bills are paid. Side hustle it till it's paying your bills. Awesome. You don't always have to just quit and live on nothing, which is what I did. Quit and be homeless and then see how you do. Yes, there's a lot of pressure to make something work at that moment. I don't know that that's the healthiest. So a lot of times with my own entrepreneur clients, I tell them, hey, keep side hustling, or we call it bridge work because it sounds better. Keep doing the bridge work that's building the bridge to where you want to go. Keep doing that. As long as you want to do that, do that. And then make that determination when you know that you can bring in every month enough to cover your basic bills. Cool. Quit your job, do your stuff full time, because you'll scale quick after that. So that's an awesome place to be. But I do think when it comes to saving versus investing, I would say that in the beginning, I would probably do 75% save and 25% invest when we're starting. That's what I would have liked to have done. But I think as you get to where you know you're consistent in your income, that's when I think you can start shifting that, right? And you can say, you know what, maybe I do 25 saving and 75 investing this month because I want to see if I can hit that next level. I think that's good if you're consistent. And I think that's the biggest thing that I had to learn about business in general is getting to consistency can take some time. So making sure you have a little bit of a safety net so that you don't have to worry about living off of craft dinner the rest of your life is probably really, really smart. Although I do still love some craft dinner. And tonight we're eating pizza. So, you know, that's stuff you could totally afford when I was younger.
I'm sure in a mom and a family of 5, it finds its way in every once in a while.
Way more than once in a while because I love pizza. But yes, and craft dinner. Those are 2 of my faves. But I say, hey, it's what you grow up on. It's okay.
What's the most exciting thing you're working on these days?
Most exciting thing I'm working on right now is getting back to live events. Oh my God, I'm so ready. So I love live. I love live events. I love stages, microphones, smoke machines. Let's do the whole thing. I want the whole big thing. So obviously took a break for a little while, didn't have those. So we have our first one coming up in October and I'm just super stoked for it. And I'm way over planning what I need to do for it because it's a 1-day little event. But because it's the first live event back, I'm really giving it my all. So they're going to be blown away when I get there and probably it'll be way too much, but that's okay. I'm known to do too much. So I take that as a win. But I'm really excited right now for live events coming back and for being able to get back in the same room with my coaching clients because we have done everything over Zoom for a long time and it's time for us to see each other face to face. So I'm super excited to be working on that. And then also I'm working on my 3rd book. So I'm excited for that too, because, hey, I outsourced it. So it's exciting and I don't have to do all the work. Yes, I love it.
I'm sure your audience will be just as happy as you are for the live event to be able to get together and have some community as well. So it's bound to be a wonderful success, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time today, Stevie.
Absolutely.
What's one piece of advice you'd like to leave with the audience?
I think the one thing I would leave with everyone is just, own your ocean. There's not going to be any perfect way or perfect strategy for you, for your business, for saving, for investing. There's no perfect strategy and not everybody's strategy will work for you. So it's kind of important that you just own your ocean and do it the way that makes sense for you, that feels good to you, that gets you to the goals that you want to get. And so as long as you're focused on you and you're focused on what you want to make out of your life, I think you can have everything that you want, but you have to own your ocean. Don't let other people tell you how to do it.
Very cool. What's the best way for our audience to be able to connect with you?
Yeah, so I would love to say, I'm so hard to get a hold of. I'm not, I am on social media way more than I should be. It's a bad habit, but I am there. So feel free to join me on social media. Everything is at the handle at Dr. Stevie Dawn, all together, all one word, just the way Southern mamas would love it. And so you can always find me, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the things. And then also I am an avid texter. So if you just want to text me and have conversations, I adore that. And so you can text me anytime. It's 817-242-2472. And that's my number. Text me. Let me know what's going on in your world. I would love to connect.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the time today, Stevie. Much appreciated.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Thank you for joining us today on The Prosperity Perspective. If you'd like to subscribe to our podcast, please head over to theprosperityperspective.com, where you can hear from other successful business owners on their approach to investments. On our website, you'll be able to learn more about how DML Capital currently helps other business owners, like yourself, diversify their investments, and grow their wealth. Take our short quiz to see if you're ready to take the next steps towards your financial success.